Hi, 8th grade. So tomorrow in class, we are going to be continuing on with our practice over our unit of geometry. Specifically tomorrow, we are going to be focusing on congruency between two different figures. Now, we are going to accomplish this through translations, reflections, and rotations. So by the time you leave class tomorrow, you will be able to draw your own congruent figure from the first through the use of a translation, reflection, and or rotation on your own individual geo board to show me at the end of class. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I have a geoboard very much like the one that I will distribute to each of you tomorrow in class. So I do expect you to come to class prepared, understanding how to use one of these. So with that said, let's jump right into our lesson. So here I have two congruent triangles, but without me telling you that they're congruent, how can you prove that yourself? And the first method I'm going to teach you is through translations. So like you know, in order to translate a whole figure, you need to be able to translate each individual vertex. And through that process, you're able to translate the whole image itself. So let's go ahead, let's take this vertex and calculate the translation from its corresponding vertex over here. So the rise over run is how we'll do this. So rise is 1, 2, run is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rise over run overall is half. Now in order for this shape to be congruent to the first, each translation will have to be the same. So each will have to be half. So let's go to this next vertex and translate it to its corresponding one over here. So rise is 1, 2, run is 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, that's half. So the last vertex here corresponds with this one, so let's go ahead and calculate that as well. 1, 2 is the rise, and then run is 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you go. Through just simply translating the first image, you have proven that the second image is congruent to the first. So the second method that we are going to be using in class to either create or prove a second figure congruent to the first is through reflections. So through a reflection, we know that that second image is congruent to the first, as well as the first congruent to the second. And so here I have two triangles, and I have them reflected over a line of reflection here. And I have that down in white. So because of that line, you know that these two images are indeed reflected. I have each corresponding side in a given color so that you can kind of see it more easily. But just based off of the reflection, we know that these two images are indeed congruent. So now I'm going to show you exactly how these two figures are congruent and how to graph it yourself. So let's say this is 0, 0, meaning this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. In order to find the point of reflection, since we are reflecting over the x-axis, we are going to be multiplying the y value by -1. If we were reflecting over the y-axis, then we would be multiplying the x value as -1. So going ahead and graphing that first point here, we need to figure out what that is and how to graph it. So we go up +1 over -1. So multiplying that x or that y value by -1, we get up +1 and then over +1. So now calculating out that next vertex here, we go up 5 over -1. Therefore, we go up 5 over +1. Now calculating the second side here, we are going to go ahead and put that first side on that vertex we've already found, and now figure out what this last vertex is here. So we go up +3 over -4. So therefore, up +3 over -4. Now to get that last side here, all we're going to do is connect it to the vertex we've already found, and then to that last one here. And that is how you get a reflected congruent figure through a line of reflection. Now the last pair of congruent triangles that we are going to prove congruent are those that have been rotated. So looking at the two triangles here, you can see that there is no rotational symmetry. And so we are going to have to look at each polygon separately to prove congruent. And to do that, we have to prove that there are the same amount of sides, these sides are the same length, and the angles are the same as well. So going forward with that, we know that this red side is the same because it is 1, 2, 3, 4 units long. Calculating these two sides here, the yellow to the yellow, we can see through the slope it is 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. 1, 2, 3, over 2. And since that is just 1 unit of the slope, we know that those are the same length as well. Looking at this blue side, it is 1, 2, and then over 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3. So we know that the angles are the same, the lengths of the sides are the same, as well as having the same amount of sides. So these two rotated images are indeed congruent. So that is how you prove two figures congruent through translations, rotations, or reflections. So come to class tomorrow prepared and with any questions you have. Have a great night, guys. See you tomorrow.